First off, spoilers. Heavy fucking spoilers. You have been warned. Let me be the first one to say, I did not have high hopes for this series finale. I'd be avoiding Twitter and Reddit all day for any chance of catching any leaks. I wanted to be genuinely surprised by the ending of the show. And you know what? It wasn't great. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't even good. But it wasn't the worst thing ever, though. But the whole thing felt rushed. I had a friend rate it a 5 out of 10. And I made the comment that episode 1 was worth 2 points, episode 8 was worth 2 points, and the rest of the show was worth 1 point altogether. We had no moment at all. Like, I know 90% of the budget went to Samuel L. Jackson for voicing Xander the Hammerhead Shark, but we could have had something. Hell, I think Starlight had more of a scorched earth moment than Homelander. I think for a series finale, it did okay. Definitely wasn't as bad as Game of Thrones, but wasn't as good as the series finale to Psych, which, yes, that is probably my all-time favorite show of all time. Don't hate me. If you like what you see, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It genuinely means a lot to me and lets me know that y'all want to see more of this shit. So, let's get right into it. The series finale begins shortly after Frenchie's death. They're shoveling dirt to cover up his body as Huey begins to read his last words, which had a lot of mention to asshole, so I think that part was written by Seth Rogen. For a brief shot, we see the ground start to rumble for no apparent rhyme or reason. Or at least we're led to believe that at first, unless you're just a fucking moron who can't critically think. We have a little shot in between which we get to see Kimiko just staring off into nothing. A little while later, which it sort of caught me off guard, was that Sister Sage started to attack Kimiko verbally about Frenchie while she was grieving. And then Butcher, unbeknownst to Kimiko, was hiding behind the van that they arrived in with his body to see if the radiation worked. Kimiko gets so angry and worked up that she fires off a blast with the ground rumbling, which is what I meant by the earlier comment. Butcher pops up from behind the van and calms Kimiko down quite a lot, to where Sister Sage starts to talk and she exclaims, "I'm as dumb as the rest of y'all now."
I'm fucking stupid like you guys.
Starting off strong for the theory people had where Kimiko depowers or at least removes the V1 from Homelander later down the line. Homelander is set to address the nation on national television from the White House, announcing his ascension to godhood. Homelander's crime analytics find Ryan, and for the first time since Homelander beat his ass, we actually get to see Ryan, who at this point is hiding in a cabin in the middle of fucking nowhere. Homelander tells Ryan that he should come with him for his announcement, to which Ryan tells him to fuck off, and that he is a weak man. This greatly upsets Homelander, who has to talk himself down from killing Ryan right then and there. Our Gen V cast makes a slight appearance where Starlight talks to Marie about meeting their heroes, and for the first time in what feels like forever, Maeve is mentioned after everyone seemingly forgot about her after she flew out the window of Vought Tower with Soldier Boy at the end of Season 3. One of my complaints is here because we made a whole fucking spinoff off of hyping these characters up for us to only see 3 of them in the main show, and they have a total screen time for about 5 minutes or so. Starlight tells Marie that they can either die or go to Canada because of what Homelander has planned. The cast of Gen V and the randos get into the box truck and head off to Canada, where later that night, Butcher tells them that the experiment worked and if they'd like to have one last go. Sister Sage is the only person who says fuck no and leaves. MM mentions the underground tunnels leading to the White House and how they can go that route to kill Homelander or at least surprise him. Meanwhile, Father and Ashley continue to have their relationship where Ashley buys him a gag that he can wear while she, and I quote, defiles him. This will actually come important later. Homelander is giving his speech on national TV with a shit ton of people in attendance at his church. A bunch of guys are holding iPads with a seating chart and are selecting people who I would assume die for not having total faith and allegiance to Homelander. Our heroes arrive in the van and start heading inside the tunnels, where we encounter some typical foreshadowing with these strange boxes and devices scattered around in places our heroes, of course, wouldn't fucking check. Back in the Oval Office, Homelander is making his address to the nation when the security team alerts Father and Ashley that they have a disturbance in the tunnels, signaling to Father that the boys have arrived. They dispatch personnel and an alarm triggers underground that almost renders everyone fucking useless, especially the Supes. After a brief shootout scene, Ashley somewhat surprisingly opens a hidden door, allowing them to escape. This is one of the last times that we actually get to see her. The boys arrive inside of the White House. It is not peaceful for long as we encounter the Deep, who is drinking because Homelander said he doesn't fuck with him and never has, and that the only reason he hasn't killed him is because he likes watching him suffer. The Deep is confrontational with our heroes before Starlight is like, I can take him, and flies out the fucking window with him. This leads us to a brief fight that is broken up between Starlight and the Deep and the boys with Oh Father, who enter the room shortly after the Deep and Starlight exit. This also makes our first and only scene in the show with the Deep and Huey, which is kind of funny. The fight between Starlight and the Deep lands us at a beach, fitting for what was said in the previous episode. They trade blows, and Starlight appeals to the Deep to get out of Homelander's grasp, but the Deep doesn't care and continues to attack before Starlight gets the upper hand and launches him into the fucking ocean. We have a brief pause as the Deep knows he is fucked. A bunch of sharks show up before a giant squid shows up, wraps its arms around the Deep, and shoves a tentacle in him that burst out of his mouth, leaving us with a bloody aftermath for our favorite Lord of the Seven Seas, and puts an end to the Deep. I have a buddy who mentioned that if the Deep dies, he'll rate the series finale a negative 10,000 out of 10, which technically he did. Back in the White House, Huey takes a shot at
Is an Ansel IGS 300.
and it blinds Oh Father, as smoke does. Butcher and Kimiko make a run for it as Huey and MM also make a run for it. Huey does this by doing a Butcher impression, which honestly isn't half bad.
Oi! This shot is diabolical.
Oh Father is about to shout at Huey and put an end to him when MM puts that gag on him that Ashley bought Oh Father on Oh Father, and he kills himself, in a sense, with his own shout. Huey lands a quick quip about how he needs to get a better job.
I really need a new job.
And we are now in the Oval Office for our final showdown, about 30-ish minutes into the 65-minute episode. So far, my biggest critique is the pacing. Like, this episode's running at 100 miles an hour to make up for the shitty pacing of the season, which they wouldn't have had to do if they did it right. Butcher and Kimiko enter the Oval Office, where Homelander notices them after he went off the record for his speech and mentions a mass genocide for people who do not trust in him, which freaks the general population out, go figure. This ensures an honestly not bad fight, but a fight that kinda doesn't make sense. 2 episodes previously, Homelander has these amazing fucking lasers that seem so much stronger than his usual lasers before he injected himself with V1. Yet Butcher is taking V1 Homelander head on and isn't doing too bad. The power scaling in this episode is kind of dog shit, not gonna lie. Butcher uses his tentacles and Kimiko is straight up tanking Homelander's lasers, which would have originally sliced her in half. Just as it seems that Homelander's about to fly out and escape, fucking Ryan comes flying in at Mock Jesus into the window. Homelander tells Ryan that he's gonna fuck him up, and this leads to a fight between Butcher and Ryan v Homelander. All while Kimiko is visited by the ghost of Frenchie because apparently the death of civilization isn't enough to get her angry for her to blast Homelander with her power.
It has always been yours.
After the moment, Kimiko lets off her blast and the screen fades to white. Butcher gets up first, followed by Homelander, who looks at Butcher before trying to laser him, which does fuck all. Homelander then tries to fly away, which also does fuck all. Homelander, realizing he is powerless, turns into a sniveling pussy and tells Butcher he will suck his dick or eat his shit if that'll make him feel better. Butcher then starts beating Homelander's ass, which I have to say felt really good. Butcher, just like in the comics, wielding his crowbar, tells him that this is for Becca before planting that crowbar into Homelander's head. Butcher then rips it up and has Homelander's brain spill on the desk before Homelander's body falls. An end to one of the most fucked up supervillains of all time. Something I'd like to randomly add to all this glazing is where the fuck is Soldier Boy? Like, we spend too much and so much time on him, making him an important character for him to do fuck all in this finale. The boys return to their new base, feeling hopeful for the first time in the series now that Homelander is no more. Ashley is impeached as president and is taken to jail off screen. Ryan and Butcher have a short heart-to-heart where Ryan admits he doesn't want to start a new life with Butcher because Butcher is still a bad man. Ryan leaves and Butcher retreats to his room where he finds Terror deceased. Enraged because he has nothing left to lose, I guess, he finds the virus that we hyped up for Season 1 of Gen V and the beginning of Season 5 of The Boys and leaves for Vought Tower. It appears only Huey noticed because he went upstairs and didn't see Butcher, went outside, and saw the van heading towards the city. We end up in Vought Tower, where we have a showdown between Butcher and Huey. Butcher admits to Huey that he sprinkled the virus into the water sprinkler system in the tower and planned on setting it off once Soups returned to Vought Tower, and that it would become worldwide in a couple of days. Huey, understandably, didn't like this plan because his girlfriend is a Soup and she would die a very fucking painful death. See, the flaw in Butcher's idea is that yes, all the Soups would die, but once the virus disappeared, couldn't they just engineer more Soups and have the same fucking problem whether he did that or not? Anywho, Butcher and Huey get into his tussle. Butcher tanks all of Huey's blows, where Huey basically just gets ragdoll everywhere by Butcher. Butcher has a lapse in judgment and sees Lenny for a brief moment in Huey, which allows Huey to grab the gun he brought and shoot Butcher in the gut. Huey and Butcher have a heart-to-heart where Butcher admits that through all the shit he drugged Huey into, that he remained himself, and that he even saw Lenny in him. Butcher passes away as the sun rises in a Vought Tower. Our next scene, we have another funeral scene, but this time it's for Butcher. Ryan, Kimiko, Starlight, and Huey are present. Huey is speaking and talking about how Butcher would have told him to stop crying and being a pussy throughout the whole eulogy. Ryan mentions how it's nice that Butcher and Becca are laid to rest right next to each other. At the very end, Kimiko tells the boys bye and leaves. tells Ryan that they're leaving too, which leaves Annie and Huey alone. Huey mentions how they're going to go to a topless steakhouse and how it's what Butcher would have wanted. We then have a short montage of Kimiko and France presumably thinking about Frenchie at this cafe. We have and his estranged wife getting back together with what I can assume is an vow exchange with Ryan present. And then we have Huey, who is walking down the street when he receives the call from the President of the United States. He mentioned how Soups are doing stupid shit and that they need to be put down, and offers Huey a position to lead a team to take down these Soups. Huey politely declines, and the president is too stunned to speak.
No, thank you.
The president then tells Huey that the offer is on the table if he decides to take it. Huey hangs up and heads inside his new adventure, which is his own electronics store. Huey arrives with food for Starlight, who is very much pregnant with his kiddo. Pretty much as soon as Huey arrives with the food, Starlight's police scanner goes off. Starlight and Huey walk out, where Huey name drops the baby's name.
Take care of your mom, Robin.
Robin. That's right. He names his fucking baby after his dead girlfriend. Starlight takes off into the sky to deal with the threat, and Huey stares off at her as she flies away. Then the credits roll. Like I said in the beginning of the episode, the pacing was fucked. Like, bad. You can tell they were in a rush to get everything done, and I can't imagine what shooting this episode was like. I think for a boys episode, it was decent, and I think for a series finale, it was okay. I think Season 5 overall was dog shit and possibly the worst season in the show, though Season 4 is also fighting for that spot. But I think it tidied up better than I anticipated from my last video. I think Homelander and Butcher had some solid deaths, but like I sort of mentioned, Homelander never popped off. At all. The closest thing I got to Homelander being a badass mega villain he was hyped up to be officially wasn't that one shot at the protesters where he mentally broke and had a vision of killing all those people in the crowd only for him to snap back. Though the best I saw was a fan-made edit that really encapsulated what Homelander going on a rampage should have been. I think if we would have had Homelander go off, this season would have been a little better. I also think Homelander's final words were in character, but also fucking cringy as hell. And could have been done better. Again, I think Seth Rogen was given writing privileges again. So overall, what did I think? And what did my friends think, since myself and two of my closest friends watched it? The overall consensus, it was an ending of all time. While not as bad as the Game of Thrones ending, for a final season, it was a shit show, and you could see the downgrade in writing as far back as Season 4. They pretty much had all the same critiques as me, except for my buddy Landon, who just hated the deep dying and thought it was okay. The pacing, like I mentioned earlier, was a big downside of the way that they went about writing this finale. The Gen V cast is hilariously unused, and Homelander not living up to his hype as his main bad guy in the series, who's sort of hyped him up as this god of destruction. Another critique I had was, did Mother's Milk fucking adopt Ryan? Like, I can't think of why else he would be at the vow exchange, but it kind of makes sense because Ryan literally had no one left. No dad, no stepdad, no mom, nobody. This show overall had a lot of potential to be one of the best TV shows in recent memory, and in a lot of ways, it was. But the show fell so hard in the third half that it almost ruins what made the show good to begin with. Besides practically telling the future in a lot of ways, including Trump's fucking golden statue. Yeah, for my non-American audiences, you can't make that shit up. To me, The Boys will remain an important show in my eyes. So much happened in my life while the show was ongoing, so it feels weird for it to end. But like all things, everything must come to an end. And for The Boys, it was indeed an explosive finale. I would like to take a moment again for all the support given on that first Boys episode I did. I genuinely did not expect it to blow up as much as it did. And for the 54 of y'all that decided to stick around and subscribe, that means the world to me, and I thank you. To everyone who commented on the video, even if you disagreed with me, thank you for sticking around and watching the video, and at the bare minimum, hearing me out even if you thought I had a stupid take. I plan on making more of these kind of videos, especially the generational fumbles, and whatever new Twitter and YouTube drama I can find. If you stuck around for this long, go ahead and drop a like and subscribe. And I will see all you folks in the next episode.